Hey, welcome. Amy Varney here. So, do you fall into the practice of labeling your emotions as bad when you're feeling angry, sad, frustrated, or good emotions? I know I do, and I'm going to tell you why you should not do that. I just had this amazing training last night from Bright Labs. They're working with the leaders of my company. It's like a leadership talent program, and it is so eye-opening. And I thought I'd pop on here. I was going to do a tutorial, but I'm having a lot of problems with my arms recently, and it's been a struggle. Hey, Jenny. And so tonight is not a good night. My arms are going numb a lot. And so I'm just going to skip that. And I'd love to share what I was learning about this. So this is actually really fascinating because last year I did this huge self-discovery about my emotions from the past. Hey, Jenny. And about how most of my life I've been labeling and pushing aside any bad emotions and burying them deep. And I didn't realize it was holding me back until I addressed it and they came out, and whoa, that was quite a roller coaster ride to deal with that. But on the other side was amazing growth and beauty. And so I have been trying to learn to hold space for my emotions and allow myself to feel them and not criticize or label or trying to dismiss them. So here's a beautiful quote that was shared last night. It says, if you can experience and move through the unpleasant feelings, you can pursue anything you want in life. And they talked about how, and that's by Joan Rosenberg, that an emotion, if we actually take the time to just allow space for it, that the feelings we feel in our body, because emotions reside in our body, it only lasts 90 seconds. Yes, it is good, but it is so hard sometimes to deal with those hard things, and the actual feeling is only 90 seconds, but we, in our minds, play it over and create these loops, and so that we could sit in that same emotion for days. Hey, Christina. Yes, and so that was like my work last year, was learning to deal with these things that bubbled up from my past and realizing I had a lot of baggage that I had just buried, and work through it. And some days it was really hard. But on the other side, I promise you, it's just magical. It really is. I feel like it helped to unleash a lot of my potential last year because I decided to work through that. All right, so yes, again, I'm struggling a bit here because I'm dealing with a lot of pain today. So my coherent mind is a little distracted, but so we talked about, it's best to be curious and ask, yes, why are you feeling these emotions? Exactly. That's what we were talking about last night. And part of it, I think, is because in my industry as well, there's a lot of talk about being positive, having, the focus and the mindset. And so I know that if I want to achieve my goals, I cannot be sitting in a sad place. I cannot be angry. I cannot, be depressed or any of those things. So, you can't really grow when you're, dealing with that. But you have to allow yourself to feel them because, you're human and things happen. And I would just try and dismiss them and focus on, the higher stuff and what I really wanted. But it's important to take time and to deal with that as well. And not to label it, not to label those emotions. So, and one of the ways to help with that is self-regulation, and it's the ability to change my thoughts, emotions, and behaviors in service of a desired outcome. Behind every single action is an emotion, and we need to master them and listen to the emotions. Don't control or deny them, listen. And as Jenny was saying, be curious about why you're feeling them. And every emotion has a set of sensations that you feel in your body. And every emotion serves a purpose. And I thought that was fascinating, to pay attention to why. Why are you feeling this? So take off the label of bad and positive and negative emotions. And here are some tips on how you can, regulate your emotions. Is first, you want to identify what emotion are you feeling. Are you sad? Are you angry? Are you happy, joy? Yes, your emotions definitely come from your thoughts. So, and then you want to recognize why has it been triggered. And then number 3, you want to respond, what can I do to meet this need? So like here are a few examples we went over. And one that like spoke to me, and you know, because like when I get angry, sometimes I have a hard time, you know, thinking clearly, and anger is usually because of injustice. And I was like, yeah, you know, for me, being an advocate and advocating for what's right or what I feel is just is like a really strong thing within me. It's always been that way. Always. I feel like I got to stand up for people who can't speak. I feel like, you know, if I see a wrong, I feel like I got to speak out. And anger can come from injustice. And so what can you do? What am I seeing as unfair? Channel the energy instead of being, you know, the anger, instead of focusing on the anger, channel energy to something constructive to help you deal with whatever it is that's triggering that anger. Sad, if you're sad, it's because of some loss. And you could say, what am I perceiving as a loss? And give yourself permission to feel and process and heal. Don't rush through it. All right, so, and I love this about joy. Talked about joy, and, you know, so flipping through my notes here. So you recognize joy, it's triggered because there's an opportunity. And so number 3, what can I do to meet this need when you feel the joy? Is what opportunity have you encountered? And a lot of people, this is pretty common, when you feel joy, to be triggered by fear or loss, for fear of losing that, you know, special moment. And instead try and savor it, embrace it, and share it with others, you know, just go with the flow. So sharing multiplies it. All right. So, and one of the things when we were talking about emotional regulation, and you know, he's like, if you have labeled your emotions as bad or good or this and that, and you try to not have to dwell in the sadness, and you know, you're always trying to bury it, then you probably aren't very good at holding emotional space for other people as well. So he says we should allow people to be where they are and feel where they are, let them own it, and allow them to move on. And this is something I need to work on. I don't think I try to rush people through things, but I get uncomfortable when people dwell. I think it just depends on how it's handled, probably the right words. Like, you know, I'm uncomfortable when people turn things into a victim place instead of, but you know, when you're dealing with loss and sadness and anger and things like that, if we find a constructive way to handle it, then that's healthier. It is usually hard right in the moment to, yes, oh, definitely. Especially allow space for sadness and all the feelings. And, you know, I thought this was important. He says if you eliminate sadness, then you're eliminating joy in your life. And so it's important to, you know, when sadness happens, to allow yourself the time to process it and then move on. Because if you don't have the ability to allow yourself to feel sadness, you won't enjoy joy as well. Hey, Laurette. And all right, so, and one of the questions, he's like, are you a toxic positivity person? And I was like, oh crap, have I been that way? Maybe to some extent. I think I have, thankfully I have a very empathetic, compassionate side, but I know when it comes to certain aspects of, say, my business or with my family, I worry that if I allow them maybe to stay in that sadness or anger or frustration, that I'm condoning it and encouraging them to live a life that way. And I think I need to find that balance where I allow them the space to feel it and use the emotional regulation to help them identify what triggered it and what's a constructive action to help, you know, work through that. And so I realize I think I need to take time to think more and encourage and allow my children to feel their emotions rather than trying to shut it down because maybe it's awkward or uncomfortable or we're in a public setting, you know. And so this is something I'm going to work on as a parent. And I'm hoping it will be a positive experience. We'll see. It's something I'm going to have to play around with. So toxic positivity person is someone who, I guess you refer to positive. So this is Bright Labs. His name is Jesse. He's doing a training for our company. Positivism is everything is perfect. They deny reality, magical thinking. Now, I don't think I'm that person, but I do strive to always find a positive silver lining no matter what I go through. And I may sometimes, because I'm kind of a tough cookie, I've been through a lot, so And my resilience muscle, I think, is pretty big. And so I may not have as much patience for those who are not as used to going through the bumps of life. And that is what I intend to work on to give people the time to learn and grow as they go through these experiences that maybe I've already gone through 100 times. But optimism is a good thing, is to notice and expect positive. Focus on what you can control. It still gives space to deal with the emotions, the sadness, the anger, the frustration, but to seek out, the positive things and to expect it. So here are some these are tools: optimistic behaviors, see adversity as a challenge, difficulty as an opportunity, engage and face problems instead of avoiding them, and reach out and seek information, use healthy humor. There's a lot of other suggestions. Those are just some of them that I noticed. Another way to help with emotional regulation and resiliency is through connection. The ability, they say relationships are the #1 indicator of health. And, like if you have like 3 people that you can confide in, and if you are that person for someone, then that helps you to have that emotional regulation. So, and I love that he talked about the importance of daring to shine in the middle of your pain and not holding back, because that is a waste of your time and your talent. And resilience is holding pain and beauty together. And so it's just so beautiful, and it encouraged me to work on finding ways to be more, emotionally resilient and helping those in my team, in my family, by holding space for them to be able to experience the highs and the lows of our business, and, the sadness, the frustration, and, the joys, without labeling those emotions as good or bad and discouraging that. When we were having discussions in this training, one of my friends, I think it was Kim, she said, or is it Kathy? She said that, when you have a child who's always jumping up and down trying to get your attention and you're ignoring them and they just keep doing it and they keep doing it and they just keep jumping. I mean, this happens to me all the time because, my son is at work with me. So I may be on the phone and literally he's like always jumping in my face and I am trying to do my work, and you ignore them and they just keep going at it. But as soon as you give them the attention, they calm down. And that's like how our emotions are, And so when we label them or try to hide them, they're going to just keep popping up one way or another in your life. They may not pop up till 20 years later, which is what happened to me this last year. But they're not going to go away until you look at them, you acknowledge them, you see what maybe triggered it, and you find constructive ways to deal with it. And then you will be able to move forward. And so it was such a good lesson. Emotional health and resiliency is so important, especially today. Hey, Sharon, with everything that's going on, being able to allow yourself to sit in your sadness and not label it as bad. Allow yourself to feel anger and frustration, and then constructively find ways to work through that. Will give you the opportunity to also embrace and enjoy, when joy comes, to sit in it and savor it and not rush it out the door. That is such a beautiful thing. I had some incredible moments of joy last year. And if I hadn't started this journey of doing therapy and working through these feelings that I had no idea had been sitting there for 20 years, and if I hadn't started that, I'm not sure I would have been able to sit through and enjoy the joy as I started to have these huge achievements and rank advancements and everything last year. But the ability to be able to not be uncomfortable when you're flooded with joy and allow yourself to feel it without feeling the fear of loss is a really cool thing. And so I'm determined to continue on this journey. I hope that you will find your own journey with emotional resiliency, accepting your emotions, and finding constructive ways to sit with them and work through the problem and then move forward. And I'm hoping to be able to continue to do this with my family and my team. So I just thought I would share that with you. Hope you guys are having a great day. Would love to hear your thoughts on your emotions and how you feel about them, good or bad. Feel free to send me a message. I would love to talk about it. Or emotional resiliency. If you have any comments, feel free to share below. And I will see you guys tomorrow.